artificial reefs and their benefit, let's say, to the
artificial reefs have been experimented all over the world and have been a success everywhere they have been used. Here in the Kuwaiti waters, where the major part of the bottom of the sea is sand and mud, it should be even better, and the results that the Kuwait diving team have seen in the reefs confirm that theory, because small animal life begins to settle on the concrete, then comes the corals, then comes the fish, and the population of a coral reef or even an artificial reef like this before the corals came, it's much better, because fish, as major part of the animals, like to be close to hard surfaces. They don't like sand. Only a few species really live on sand and on mud. The major part of them need a hiding place, need a hunting place. So these places will be very important even for fisheries, because some species that are used for human alimentation or food eat and hunt on the reefs. They may not live on the reefs sometimes, but they pass through the reefs and hunt there and eat there algae, corals, other fishes. So it will be very important. And the ugly aspect, sometimes people look at the concrete and they say, my God, this is garbage they are going to put in the water. It is not. Because after 1 month, after 1 year, you don't see concrete. You just see a beautiful coral reef full of fish, full of life. So I think it's a good thing they are doing here.
Mr. Oliveira, you know, from your CV and what we mentioned at the top of the program, you've traveled the world and filmed in a lot of different locations. Can you tell us some of the most interesting places that you've done some photography at?
Well, yes, really this is a privilege. Well, the Red Sea, as a matter of fact, is one of the best places. But I like very much, it's not so spectacular, but I like very much the Mediterranean Sea also. Because it's not spectacular as corals, but there is a special fauna there, and the water is very clear also, and they are very beautiful places. But the Red Sea, it's the top. But now the Red Sea has a lot of problems, especially the northern part. It's involving a serial of problems of bleaching. So places where we have been about 5 years ago or 10 years ago now are almost a desert. That's a really problem that is affecting all the coral reef.
We know that you're an author of books too, and written many columns. I believe these are some of the pictures right there. If you could describe to us a little bit about that.
Those are colonial anemones, small anemones that are being seen by a diver. She diver, she's my wife, who dives also. And
so it's all in the family then?
Yes, and my wife soon will dive also. And those photos are from one book I've made about the Portuguese underwater fauna. It's the name in English is Under This Portuguese Sea, and it's a trip from the shallow water to the ocean, to the deep, and to the rocks, to the sand, to know all the species, the principal species that inhabit the sea. Of course, now we are seeing other photos of animals, because from the middle of the 80s, I began to open my photograph to general animal life photography, to biological photography. And now I specialized on photographs like this flying insect, of high-speed photography, that is made, of course, in studio, cannot be made on the nature, but who give, with the proper set, give these spectacular results. It's always nice nature, and it's not the photographer, it's nature itself that's beautiful.
Mr. Oliveira, I believe you also made some adjustments to your own, let's say, camera in terms of equipment, slight adjustments?
Yes, in underwater photography. Now, when I began in '71, we need to make everything ourselves, because there was no commercial equipment. Nowadays, things have changed a lot, and there are a lot of automatisms on the camera that make our life more easy. But we need always that special part to make that special photography, and we are always changing equipment. In the Kuwaiti diving team, there is also one diver who makes spectacular parts. I've seen it. It's like factory, and very good handmade. And we need always to make adaptations for the flash, for the light meter, to photograph closer, to put the light. So it's very interesting because we need ourselves to make our equipment sometimes.
Mr. Oliveira, can you also tell us about an experience you had in the famous German, I believe, U-boat submarine which sank in the Second World War? That must have been quite an experience.
Yeah, it was an experience not by the boat itself, but it was pretty cold. It was about 6 degrees, so it was really a very cold dive in murky waters of north of Portugal. In fact, we didn't know when we found the boat, but it was a new boat. At the end of the war, the Germans, running away from the war scenario, used to put inside of these submarines everything they can collect, gold, art, what do you call
art pieces, like
art
this?
pieces, whatever they want, and they run away to South America. But a lot of them have problems; they could not reach it, and these ones stay there. They sank the boat and they've presented there in Portugal. So we made a few dives to try to collect some pieces from the submarine, or even we have considered the hypothesis of raising it, as the Kuwaiti diving team have done it here with the boat, the dhow and everything, the same system. But finally we found an old marine that was on the ship through Germany that was still alive, and he wrote us a letter, and a very important letter, and he told us, don't open the submarine, because there are still torpedoes, and the submarine is bomb-trapped, and the torpedoes are still in very sealed containers, and the explosives, and they can explode at any moment. So you better leave it where it is, and leave it alone.
That's an
so we
interesting
did.
story. You left it alone.
So we did. So he left me alone down there.
Okay, well, Mr. Abdullah and Mr. Oliveira, we've come now towards the end of our time here. It's a pity we have a lot of things to talk to. But could you please tell us, Mr. Abdullah, very quickly, what do you think people should do, especially in our part of the world here, in order to protect the reefs, the marine life, and the environment in general?
Well, as they say, they should do the right thing, not to try to protect the marine life, not to throw waste or do any harm for the reefs. That's what's important for us, the coral reefs and the marine life in general.
Okay, well, Mr. Oliveira, do you have any final comments at the end of this interview?
Yes, children.
Children.
Take care of the children, everything will be okay. Because we can have all the knowledge. We want to do things, but we are old enough. So is the children the key of the future?
Okay, well, we'd like to thank you very much for joining us this evening. And we hope, Mr. Oliveira, that you have a very enjoyable time in your stay in Kuwait.
Thank you very much.
And Mr. Abdullah, Father, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for Kuwait Television, KTV2, and thank you, and thank for all the studio people here.
It's our pleasure. And this evening we were speaking to Mr. Abdullah Al-Fadl, and he is the head of the computer and internet at the Kuwait dive team, and also Mr. Paulo de Oliveira, and he is the biological and environmental photographer, and he's here in Kuwait to help the dive team on a documentary project and just to give them some more skills in the field.